So thinking about what I should be doing today, I could wear my sales hat and put on my Italian suit, which I don't actually have, but instead, I want to do an educational presentation. So I put on the jacket that has the professorial elbow patches. It's totally not because I got fat during COVID and this is the only thing that still fits. It's not true at all. But instead, I'm going to start first with a game. So let's see. First, we want to define what is a supply chain reusable asset. It's any physical supply chain asset that can be used more than once. So the game is, and this is for all of you, I'm going to put up a picture of an item, and I want you to tell me whether or not you think this is a supply chain asset or not. Much lower stakes than Squid Game, but probably, we'll see. Okay, so is a reusable packaging container a reusable asset? Yes or no? You just say yes, no, okay. How about a mason jar? Yeah. Could be. Maybe a pallet? I think there's enough evidence of that here to say yes. How about a forklift? Is that a reusable supply chain asset? A rail car, covered hopper, rail box. How about a CNC machine? It's fixed, but maybe it could be. An automotive part bin. Or maybe a tote bag, which we all talked about today in Kroger. It certainly is reusable. Or even for pharmaceuticals, a radiopharmaceutical dose delivery case. If we go by the definition that I talked about before, then absolutely all of these are reusable. But from a supply chain context, this definition isn't all that helpful. What I do think is more helpful, thinking about how to maximize the efficiency of your supply chain with reusable assets, is the definition of a critical operational asset. By which I mean, any physical item can be used to repeatedly hold or transport physical goods within and between facilities, without which critical supply chain processes will fail. They must be mobile, which means they need to move around. They need to be critical to your supply chain. They need to be operational, which means they're holding the goods, not the goods themselves. They need to be related to the supply chain. Has to be reusable and an asset. And I'm in marketing, so I spent a lot of time about coming up with clever names. I couldn't quite do anything with this, but if you change the R and the A around, that gives us our host today, MC Oscar. So instead of saying a mobile critical operational asset, we can say MC Oscar. And it turns out that, in fact, if you look at these 9, that's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of what I showed before are, by definition, a critical operational supply chain asset. So that's the focus of what I'm talking about today, these MC Oscars. And actually, MC Oscar was in charge of the game all along. Okay, so, am I still hot? Yeah, okay. Very quickly, about me, work with Roambee. I've been doing this for over 10 years, selling and building B2B software as a solution products in the transportation space. Location technology has been what I've been doing for a long time. We are a member of the Reusable Packaging Association. We are a startup out of Silicon Valley, but we've been around since 2015. We have offices globally. We work with many fine customers, have strong partners that complete our ecosystem and have a lot of high quality investors as well. And we do have quite a bit of industry recognition for what we're doing on both the shipment visibility side as well as the asset visibility side, which I'm focusing on today. All right, enough the commercial about us. So complete visibility, this is what we're talking about today. If you're familiar with shipment visibility, that's taking up most of the oxygen in the air in the visibility space in terms of companies that are providing you with visibility of your goods as they move from where they're manufactured or stored to the consumer, or at least to the final warehouse. And there's been a lot of value in that shipment visibility in terms of much better ETAs, maintaining the quality from the condition and the security of these assets. However, so I should say then that if you had no visibility, you can't see very much. With shipment visibility, part of the picture certainly comes into focus, right? We're doing much better than we did before. We're digitizing our supply chain. But is there more to see than what we can see with shipment visibility? And the reason I'm up here today is, of course, there is. And so what is missing is these MC Oscars, these critical operational assets that are used throughout that supply chain, whether linearly from the supplier all the way to the retailer, or even for e-commerce, the consumer, or it could be, oh, hi, Oscar. It can even be cyclical as well. So a quick tour of what we mean by this by industry. There's some general ones in terms of containers, crates, pallets, boxes. If we look at, hi, Oscar. If we look at chemicals, certainly drums, ISO tanks, even railcars. We treat railcars as a returnable asset. It delivers PVC pellets someplace and returns and picks up more. Automotive, in terms of bins holding, but even things like molds and dies that are used in between facilities. They're mobile and they're critical, and you need to have them where they're needed during the right part of the manufacturing process. Food and beverage, a lot of the focus of where we are here today, certainly RPCs for produce, bag and box systems for dairy, kegs, rail boxes, etc. Even pharmaceutical. A lot of today's really temperature-sensitive goods are shipped within these insulated pharmaceutical packaging, or even cryo tanks, or even something like a custom surgical kit that's for this patient. It's sent from a spot, it's used, and it needs to be sent back and obviously sanitized and used again. That is an asset. So, what is increased visibility solving for? This is really the heart of the matter of the presentation. Most of our customers come to us because they're losing a certain percentage of these assets, and they want to stop that. There's an actual real cost savings if you don't lose or misplace these assets. And certainly, through the use of location technology, supply chain tracking and monitoring, we can do that. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg. The second biggest would be, lost a graphic here, but hopefully it'll come back, is actual top-line revenue. So for companies whose business it is to move more product more quickly, if you have these assets to meet the demand where the needs need to be, where the goods need to be moved, then you can actually move more product and make more money. Increasing asset utilization. Some companies we work with have millions of these. And if you can increase the utilization of how frequently you use the turnaround time or reduce the dwell time, then either you can get rid of ones you're leasing, or as you grow, you don't need as many as you did before. Labor efficiency gains. Many companies are still physically employing people to go out per facility, count how many assets we have where. If you've digitized them, if you're tracking them, you can automatically understand the location and the status in terms of availability of those assets per facility, or even within zones of a facility. Okay, stopping revenue leakage. Sometimes our customers find that their assets have been borrowed by someone else and they're not billing for them. So if they can find them, they can bill for the usage when otherwise they had no idea that the farm next door was actually using their asset. Okay, for some assets like containers and ISO tanks, especially in today's world, significant fees associated with demurrage and detention. If you can reduce that dwell time, then you can reduce those costs. The value of the product when it's perishable, like food waste, if you can't move it to product, it's just going to rot there. So the more you're able to meet that demand, the less food waste you'll have. And then finally, the sustainability aspect of it, of a reusable versus a one-time, or even the ability to recycle what you have when you no longer want to use it, high-quality plastics, for example. So, there we go. It's supposed to happen in real time. Doesn't quite look like it did on my screen, but that's okay. You got the picture. Okay, so for complete supply chain visibility, first we had nothing. It was opaque. We added shipment visibility. Now if we add complete supply chain visibility, we can see the whole picture. Visibility for our goods, as well as the assets used to hold and transport them. And hopefully you see in the bottom left corner, Oscar's there again. Okay, let's see. So, whether or not something is a shipment or an asset can actually be transitive. So at the beginning, a pallet is just an asset, it has no value unto itself. but you put goods on that, and now it's an asset with inventory on it. Once it's in motion, we want to treat it as a shipment, which there's certain considerations you care about the shipment in terms of condition and security of it, of course. And then at the end of its journey, then it becomes an asset again. It could be linear, or it could be cyclical, where it's just going round and around, A to B to C to A, or obviously it can be much more complex than that. So what really matters to you is, what do you care about? Do you care about the goods that are being shipped and you don't really care about the assets? Maybe that's somebody else's responsibility. Or do you care about the assets and not the goods themselves? Or do you care about both? And the question you need to ask yourself is, when you're working with supply chain visibility companies, can it handle both aspects? Can you get visibility seamlessly back and forth between shipments and asset? Because they do change over time. So what do we hope to achieve by having visibility on these critical operational assets? Or how do we achieve that? There's a variety of different technologies, lots of different vendors here. I encourage you to go and talk to them about each. Lots of different considerations. But barcodes, been around for a long time, still has a great deal of utility. Again, let's see, RFID, there's active and there's passive. It's a low cost, pretty strong value proposition for today. There is new technologies like low Roambee. There's also, you'll see, there is, ultra wideband, and there is also wire POS. So a whole bunch of new technologies that can be deployed. We at Roambee, we use Bluetooth for package level, and we use IoT for direct to cloud monitoring in the field. And often a variety of combination of these technologies together can be used. So there was the barcode. That's RFID. That is a low Roambee tag. We have Bluetooth beacons. It could be labels as well. If you talk to our friends who will it, and they'll be talking next about that, as well as IoT devices. Okay, multiple considerations in terms of, do you care about the location within the facility itself, or do you care about them when they're out in the greater world? Because if it's just within the facility, you need the infrastructure to monitor it. If it's out in the greater world, then you need real-time GPS and cellular connectivity to be able to actually communicate the location, condition, status of those assets. Or do you care about both? What is the value of the asset? Is it worth a $5 tracker on a $3 asset? Probably not. There's still value there, but obviously if you have something that's worth $10,000, it may be worth spending certainly what it takes to track that asset. Do you care about the value of the goods that the asset holds? What is the size and the form factor? So how much battery life do you need? Where can it be? Does it need to be hidden or not? Do you own or lease these assets? Certainly makes a consideration. The operating environment, how big is the space? Where can you put for infrastructure? Or is it very cold or wet, for example? Does it have to be subject to cleaning considerations? What's the cycle time? How long will it take to deploy this? Are your assets all in the field? Can you do this all at once? Or do you have to wait till they cycle back and do it over the course of years, which is sometimes what you have to do? How long can it go before you need to change the battery? Do you have exposure to the sun? We have, and others have solar-powered ones that can run indefinitely as long as it has access to the sun to continue. Certainly security, your budget, how much money do you have to spend on this, and more. So, getting down to the end, what do we need to know about these assets to achieve visibility? We need to know the type of the asset you're tracking. We need to know the location of it and the volume of these assets per location. You want to know the status. Is it available? Is it not? Is it loading? Is it unloading? Sometimes you care about the condition of the asset. So, for example, an insulated pharmaceutical box may need to be chilled enough before you put the product into it. Certainly, you care about dwell time. If you care about utilization, you want to reduce that dwell time as much as possible. Sometimes you care about what's in it. You need to understand demand. Where do you need these assets? As well as ETA. How long is it going to take for those empty assets to get back to you so that you can use them? And finally, trends. What can you learn over the course of months and years that can help you plan better for this? All right, so we use Bluetooth and IoT, goes into our platform. We have mobile apps. We have APIs that you can consume. I'll skip past that for the sake of time. You can find us at booth number 6756, just right over there.